Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. I am going to be talking about yet another black and white issue. And to the brother who asked me if I really had something to drink in the cup, yes I do. I put in very little because as I'm speaking and it's cold outside, it's a little chilly in here as well. It's not that bad in here because I do have the heat on, but my drink still gets cold, so I don't pour a whole lot in here. But I'm talking about a black and white issue. Since you cared, my drink is actually in here, the actual drink. It's hot in here. And so I pour in just enough into my cup so that I could get my video started, okay? But yes, I do actually have something to drink in the cup. So anyway, another one of those issues that I'll be speaking of, there is a story that was shared with me. As a matter of fact, one of my viewers asked if I could talk about this situation where a substitute teacher down in Texas has lost her job. She was fired for getting into a fight with a student. And the reason why this is a black and white issue is because the teacher is black and the student is white. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. I was bothered by what I saw in the video. As a mother, I have to keep it real. I was very, very bothered by it. But I'm going to give you some fair and balanced opinions and reporting on the story. Because mainstream media doesn't always do that. As a matter of fact, they will spin it in the direction of how they feel. If they want you to feel one way about a person, they will spin the story around to where the actual victim becomes the perpetrator or the villain. And they'll have it to where the villain becomes the victim. We've seen that so many times, such as in cases of like Botham Shem. We saw how he was gunned down in his own apartment, and immediately they tried to spin the story to make it seem like he was somebody who had drugs all up in his apartment and all this kind of stuff. So we know that these people are just reprobate, wicked demons. Because if they don't like the person, their skin color, they are going to spin the story in the direction that they want it to go in. And that is what's happening in this situation as well. Okay? Remember what I said in a previous video, where they can, because they control all of the media, all of the major media anyway, they are going to spin the story. They can make the person who is the victim say, hey, do I even exist? They can make you believe that you don't even exist. Have you questioned in your own existence? That's how well they can put together a lie or a deception about a person. We've seen it so many times in movies, right? Where they can paint a narrative. I mean, just think about the Native Americans, okay? For years in school, we were taught that they were savages, that the Native Americans are savages, but they were nothing more than people who were defending their land and their families. But they were called savages. Okay, so in this story here, I was very bothered by what I saw as a parent, okay? If you remove the race of the people, I was very bothered by it. But when I said I'm going to give you some fair and balanced reporting on this, I'm going to do just that. These schools have created such a toxic environment to where everyone is acting in their own best interest, okay? In this situation, if mainstream media was being fair, they would talk about the fact that the teacher was struck by the student as well. You can see very clearly in the video. Some of them aren't showing that part, okay? They want to show you when the teacher goes in on the student, but not when the student actually strikes the teacher. Now, I don't want anyone to think that I am going in the direction of the teacher at this point, okay? I'm trying to give you some fair and balanced reporting. What I want to say is this. That's why I started off telling you that I was bothered by how I saw this teacher, this grown woman, deal with this student. Okay, but to be fair and balanced, the school system has such a toxic environment to where you have society or the system or the powers that be saying, let's arm our teachers. Let's give them weapons, so when students such as this start to become violent, either against other students or teachers, the teachers will be armed. They're not armed just to show the weapon to say, hey, look, stop with the violence. They are armed so they can neutralize the threat. That's why they want to arm teachers. Now, this is something they are talking about doing. Arming teachers to deal with students like this who become violent in the classroom, or students who want to show up with weapons in the classroom. And so they have created this environment. So students are afraid, teachers are afraid, everyone's afraid of for their lives. And so when a student becomes violent and a teacher neutralizes the threat, you have people of a certain racial demographic who are up in arms about this teacher neutralizing the threat, okay? But where is the talk about the disrespect from the student and the student putting her hands on the teacher? How does this teacher know that this student, because of how she's behaving, how do we know that she doesn't have a weapon and is going to discharge that weapon on the teacher or the rest of the students? Because there is a toxic environment already created. No one has time to think about how far the student is going to take things, right? On the same token, it is my belief that the teacher, if you see that the student is behaving this way, this is me being fair and balanced, y'all, which is what a lot of you cannot do. There are a lot of reprobate people who will never see both sides of the story because they only want to see their side. This is why you had these same people cheering for George Zimmerman when he killed Trayvon Martin, a 17-year-old young man that's about the same age as this young woman. All he had was Skittles and an iced tea. And he was trying to defend himself against a big burly man who attacked him. But you have these people who applauded George Zimmerman for neutralizing what he claimed to be a threat, which was a lie. Now, same scenario, but instead of a young man and an older man, you have a young woman and an older woman. Okay? The teacher, being the older woman, is neutralizing the threat from this teenage girl. Now, they want to try to say that she was special needs or what have you. Special needs has nothing to do with someone attacking. People with special needs have a trigger finger too. They can stab you, they can kill you. Okay? But back to the George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin situation, this is the same thing, but it's in a professional environment where other students can be harmed by this student's actions. Because she's out of control. She swings on the teacher. So how do we know that she's not going to go any further and try to do something else? But in this case, the adult did not shoot and kill her. In which, if the system that said that they want to arm teachers, look at everything, y'all. I'm talking about everything. This system said that they want to arm teachers. Now, what if this teacher had that weapon that this system wants to give teachers, and this student became belligerent, and that teacher just fired on her and killed her, neutralized the threat? I want to point out the fact that you racists can't have your cake and eat it too. Either you fix the problems or you're going to actually make them worse. Fixing the problem for you all would be to address the racism in this country, the clear racism, the discrimination, the hatred, the bias, your unbalanced approach to every situation. Because again, Even with the Tatiana Jefferson case, it took men of the clergy, black men of the clergy, to stand up and say, look, you are not going to paint this young woman to be the villain. And they had to say this. This is something that needed to be said, because you all have set precedent after precedent of victimizing the victim. And making the perpetrator seem like they are so innocent in all of this. Oh, poor George. Poor George. He had to protect himself from the kid with the Skittles and the iced tea. Tamir Rice deserved what he got from the police officers, because this kid playing with a gun, he frightened the poor officers. They had to neutralize him before that toy gun did more damage. This is what we are dealing with in this country. People who are reprobate, unfair, and unbalanced in their decisions. Now again, I'm going to say this. I was not pleased with what I saw this teacher doing to the student. But you have to take your part in this and understand that you are the ones who have created this toxic environment, not only in the schools, but in this country and in this world. You have these laws that you put in place that you don't abide by. You expect everyone else to abide by these rules and these laws that you put in place, but you yourself do not abide by those laws. And so when people react or respond to the environment that you have created, you try to come in with your laws to straighten these people out, when it is your laws that caused all of the chaos to begin with. In a situation such as this, it is very hard to watch and see these things constantly happening in schools. Many times we have seen where the students, the children, are the perpetrators of violence. Okay, and then when teachers respond in kind, like, I'm not going to let this big overgrown girl. First of all, listen, in other cultures, kids this age and this size are not considered children. This middle age thing that, when I say middle age, I'm not talking about middle age individuals. I'm talking about this in-between stage of childhood and adulthood. That was something created by Western culture. And they created this for whatever weird reason they did. But in African cultures, ancient cultures, you had boy kings at age 8, running and ruling whole kingdoms. But now you have 18-year-olds acting like spoiled children brats, and people calling them babies and children. Now, from time to time, I do that because they always like to grow our kids up. Our 12-year-olds are perceived as 20-year-olds so that they can justify killing them, while they make their 17 and 18-year-olds like little children. Oh, this young child, or this young man, this innocent young man, 22 years old, you want to now treat him like he's 12 so that you can justify being lenient on him for the violent crime that he just committed. And I'm talking about these people, the ones who control things. They spin the narrative however they want to spin it. They make their grown elder children young to justify their wicked, heinous behaviors. And they make our young, innocent children older to justify harsh behavior towards them. It is what it is. And reprobates will never see nor understand how to be fair and balanced, because it's not in them. The truth is not in them. They don't care, neither do they sympathize with people that are persecuted by them or their own. Because, like I said before, for some of you who don't do things, you don't physically put your hands on anyone, your silence is violence. Because you sit back and you say nothing and you do nothing. You don't oppose it. You don't speak against it. As a matter of fact, you tell the family members of those who have been taken out or destroyed by the system, you tell them, well, you should have told them to do this, that, and the other. Instead of telling officers, don't be so trigger happy when it comes to young 12-year-old kids, black kids, Instead of telling them that, you say, well, Tamir Rice shouldn't have did this. Trayvon Martin shouldn't have did that. Michael Brown shouldn't have did this. And you all know that many times they are provoking people. They are trying to get you to make an action or a move or a jerk or a gesture so they can justify taking you out. You know that's what's going on, but you refuse to address the wickedness of your own. And this is why the judgment of the Most High Yah is going to pursue all of those who want to remain silent while their counterparts are violent. It's going to pursue you until you are destroyed by your own wickedness. That's just the way it works. Some of you don't believe in judgment. Well, if you want to call it karma, it doesn't matter. But it's funny how you all talk about karma against others, but you don't think it's going to visit you. But guess what? It is. Okay? It is what it is. The truth will always be, whether you accept it or not. It is what it is. And with that, I will say shalom to my people. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel. And also, comment, share, like, and subscribe.